Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting edition of the Renatus InvestEdge. My name is Jay Stark, and it is my pleasure to get to welcome you to our, it's not really a call, our broadcast today. This is done live, and we are excited to be with you. Now, I will let you know that the whole intent of this call is to bring to you actionable information that you can apply today in your real estate investing business. We are bringing you practitioners, individuals who are making their living doing what they're talking about, and they're earning money in today's landscape, in today's market. These are not strategies that just worked 10 years ago or that they read about in a book 15 years ago. These are things that people are using today, and that's what this call is all about. Now, with no further ado, I want to turn the time over to our CEO and founder. He is the host for the remainder of this call, an individual with whom I've had the opportunity to work for over 14 years, and it has truly been my pleasure. I had an experience a while ago where it really dawned on me that Bob is so focused and so centered on empowering the people around him that my wife and I and our family have actually been able to start to generate more income in our real estate than I was making here as an employee with Bob. And as I sat in his office and as I started to just think out loud about that story, I realized how it sounded to him, because he leaned over the desk and he said, "Jay, you can't leave me." And I looked back at him and I said, "Bob, I want you to know that I don't have to be here. I get to be here. I choose to be here because of the mission of what Renatus is all about empowering people, all about serving and helping people with bringing them the best information so that they can go out there and make a change in their lives to become the change they wish to see in the world." So with no further ado, let me introduce you to my mentor, the individual who has put together Renatus. He's a visionary beyond compare. I've never even seen anyone else close to the way that he's able to put together projects, the way that he's able to really craft a vision that other people rally behind. So with no further ado, Mr. Bob Snyder.
Man, I'll tell you what, Jay, I am so thrilled and excited to be here. And you always say so many nice, flattering things. I could say everything the same way in reverse to you. You're such a rock star. Here's the amazing thing about it is that I remember that conversation. It was a bittersweet conversation because it started out bitter with me thinking that maybe you might be moving away, from Renatus instead of, just locking things down and saying, "No, I get to." That was a wonderful moment, a great breakthrough. But heavens, after all these years, we still continue to crank it out. And that's the beautiful thing about today's discussion is we're going to crank out some incredible information and knowledge for each and every one of you when it comes to the wonderful subject of making money in real estate investing and how you do that today. Not 10 years ago, like Jay said, or reading a book 15 years ago, because the market is dynamic. It's constantly shifting. And as it shifts, we've got to be able to shift with it. So, with our student body out there, which really occupies, every single state of the union, we've got a couple individuals that are right here close to the corporate office in Utah that have just continued to crush it. I mean, this couple is a couple of the individuals that, we have not only gotten to know and love, but to respect immensely for what they have created. They have on YouTube a wonderful show. It's the Mitch and Maeli. It's a flipping show, Flipping with Mitch and Maeli. That has gotten some great traction. But I'll tell you where they've really made a difference inside of our community and the lives of so many people, and that is with their First Flip Challenge, which they are absolutely dominating with. They're able to take individuals through our education and then into the First Flip Challenge, get them results in record time. It's been mind-blowing to watch and inspiration for me and for Jay and everybody else here. So I could go on and on. This is a couple that, they've been involved with hundreds of real estate transactions. They know the business inside and out. They have so many accolades that I think we'd be here for hours if I read them all off. So instead, I want to turn some time over to them so that they can enlighten you as to some of the systems that they have put in place for acquisition and how you can go out there and do that too. So Mitch and Maeli, thanks for joining us in the studio, man. We are so thrilled to have you here.
Thank you, Bob. Happy to be here, Jay. Thanks for having us. Real estate is why I started doing this. The people that the lives we get to change along the way, that's been a huge bonus, and it's something that we fell in love with, and that's become the passion project. But I know the reason people get excited about Renatus is because they recognize that they can change their own lives by jumping into real estate and starting to make money. And I've noticed as I've kind of watched, myself go through a process and watched other students go through a process of learning and going out and starting to apply the education. You kind of start off a little bit, trying things out, kind of doing the, you kind of fail as you go kind of thing. And over the years, I've been doing this 12 years now. I've been a Renatus student for 12 years. Had bought zero real estate before that, by the way. But I've learned that there's an easy way, there's a systematized way to do it that can actually save you time.
Yeah.
Because I watch a lot of people go out and, they'll find a deal. We'll watch, Chris Albin's Deal of the Decade class, which is absolutely awesome. And they'll hear about all these different ways to find off-market deals, things like, divorce leads, or, pre-foreclosures, or whatever the case might be. Probate. Yeah. They'll start pulling those lists and all the good things, all the things we should be doing. But then you get a lead and you get excited. And you're like, oh, I'm going to go drive to this house. It's like a half hour away from my house. I'm going to go drive. I'm going to take some pictures, right? Drive back home. I'm going to run my numbers. And then, I'm going to write up an offer because now I know what I need to buy it for. And then, you spend 3-4 hours on this one lead. And then you call the homeowner and they're like, oh, we don't want to sell.
Yeah.
Now you just wasted 4 hours on one lead, right? And so that only had to happen to me a few dozen times before I realized there's got to be a better way to do this. And so that's where, over time and with failure and with wasting a lot of time, we developed the what we call the deal spotter system or the asset acquisition system, right? And that's something that's taught deep within Renatus DNA is use systems. And so as that was just repeated to me, it's like, all right, let's create systems around everything we do. And so the deal spotter system, really, it's just 5 steps. And these 5 steps, as I learned, from watching Renatus classes, these are the things that investors do, because really an investor is not a contractor. That's not the same thing.
Right.
An investor is not a property manager. Not the same thing. Those are different things. Not an interior designer. Investor is an investor. Well, what does an investor do? Well, a lot of people come to Renatus in search for a way to build wealth. In real estate, and correct me if I'm wrong here, if you can think of any other ways, but in real estate, oops, I bumped the mic. Sorry, Aaron. In real estate, there's only one direct action you can take. When you take that action, it actually makes your net worth go up. And that's when you're at the title company closing on a deal. Mm-hmm. When you sign your name, your net worth goes up. So I have 24 hours in a day, and Maeli has 24 hours in a day, and we all have the same amount of time. What should we spend our time doing? If we want to be an investor, we should spend our time trying to be at that closing table.
Yep.
Right.
Buying property, right? And so that takes some massive action. When you start to think that way, it really eliminates a lot of the fluff. I no longer want to go strap on a tool belt and frame a wall at my fix and flip. I want to be at the closing table. If I'm spending time over there, I can't be doing the 5 things that investors do. And so back to the deal spotter system, that's what it is. It's the 5 things. It's how to find, analyze, negotiate, fund, and close on deal. And Aaron's brought it up on the screen here. You see that step number 1 is lead generation. And we use a series between each step. There's a filter, because real estate is not like shooting fish in a barrel. This is a no business. I think one of the first books that Michael, that Michael Huggins had me read when I started with Renatus was Go for No. This is a no business. You gotta go through a lot of properties, a lot of leads to get that yes. Real estate's more like panning for gold than it is shooting fish in a barrel, right? When you're panning for gold, you stick your pan in the river and you pull out mostly not gold.
Yep.
Mostly not gold. Yes, mostly not. No, it's interesting because you said this is a no business, and I mean my mind initially went to KNOW. No,
oh yeah,
rather
that
than
as well.
I did the same thing.
It was one of those deals where
same thing.
So either way, it is a no business.
You're going to get those no's. And if you're spending 4 hours on one lead that's probably going to be a no, you're not going to be generating a lot of leads. So we got to take massive action, right? And so that's what the deal spotter system, I know, Aaron, you're going to be switching back and forth a lot, I'm sorry. But the deal spotter system with lead gen, we want to generate a ton of leads. Let's get a full pan that we pull out of the river, and let's start passing it through these filters. The first filter is not go drive by the property and spend an hour there and back, or do your numbers, or fill out a Repsy and write an offer. The first step is let's gauge the seller's desire. Let's see if they're even open to receiving an offer, right? So let's do all the things that Chris Albin said in step one. Let's go down to the county. Let's pull the records. Let's get all the divorce leads, all of the probate leads, all of the pre-foreclosure leads, bankruptcies, all of that stuff. Let's bring it home, skip trace it using Renatus iOS, and let's and then let's either call or reach out to all of them.
I will say though too, it's so easy to find the leads because of the systems you guys have created, right? So it actually isn't the hard part. So many times people are like, oh, finding leads so hard. It's like, no, actually it's the call.
Yeah.
Right. So we created something called Smile and Dial on Thursdays, and it's at noon. But what we like, people will create all of these leads because this is right. We're like, preach, find leads, right? But then they just look at them. Right? They just look at the leads, and it's like, oh my gosh. Okay, so we're gonna not just look at them. They're not pretty, I mean, your spreadsheet's so pretty, but truthfully, a house is way prettier, right? Dollar bills are way prettier. So it is actually taking the action. So you can't just create the lead. You actually have to call them.
You got to reach out to them.
Yeah.
You got to reach out to them. And at first, as you start to ramp this up, call them. Just pick up your phone, dial them, shoot them a text message. I mean, Maeli and I have kind of gotten to a point where that's not realistic, especially with the work we do in our Renatus business as well. So we've kind of automated that process, and I think that's fine. Right? We have a Go High Level account, and it shoots. We plug our leads into it, and it shoots out a text that sounds like it's coming from Maeli, and it says, "Hey," almost exactly the script that Chris shares too, Chris Albin in Deal of the Decade. It says, "Hey, my husband and I are looking for a home in your area. You're stuck out to us. Would you be open to an offer?" And you'll get half of them that won't answer, and you'll get another 25% of them that'll say no, and maybe another 25% to say yes. Now I just whittled my 100 leads or whatever it is for the week down to 25 that now I'm going to go run the numbers on, right? So that's the first filter there, is seller desire. If they pass through that filter, if they give you a yes, I would be open to receiving an offer from you. Work on that one.
Yeah.
Don't work on the one that's like, nah, well, I'm going to run the numbers anyway. I'm going to write up an offer. I'm going to pull comps, and I'm going to, don't waste your time on that stuff, right?
That's brilliant to really be able to filter it down to only talking to those individuals who are even open to an offer, open to a deal. Because I'm sure most newbie investors fall into that trap of like, I'm going to fall in love with this deal before I've even talked to the guy who lives there.
Yeah. And then they get really sad. They get really emotionally attached to something that isn't even feasible, right? And it's about the numbers. It's not actually about the house, unfortunately.
And the challenge is that they confuse activity with accomplishment. And that's the thing that I see with a lot of, especially new investors, is that they confuse activity with accomplishment because they don't understand what a money-making activity truly looks like and how to streamline efficiencies. And I'm glad you're speaking about this today.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, people play Office, right?
Yes, they do.
Right?
They do play Office.
They get their business cards and they get their website already.
They get their whiteboard all filled out.
The spreadsheets are full.
Oh, they go down to the Office Depot. They buy themselves a chair. They bring it home and they go, dang it, I don't think I can make calls yet because this chair, it's not working for me.
I don't have the right highlighter yet. My dream board isn't done.
Yeah.
My stapler's not full.
Yeah.
Look at the time. Home Depot or Office Depot, they're closed now. They're closed. I'm going to have to wait until tomorrow because I'll get me a new chair tomorrow. Right. And boy, then I'm going to attack that list.
I also will say that you have taught us, right, one of my favorite things is create as many leads as you possibly can before you get to that next filter, right? Before you pass it. And one of the reasons is because when you do actually start making those phone calls, you have a bunch of phone calls to make. Then all of a sudden you don't have so much anxiety because you're not like, oh no, I'm going to screw up this call. What if I say something wrong? And you won't spend a lot of time just letting them waste your time, right? If you know you have 1,000 leads to call, you better get to it, right? I only have a few seconds here, right? It's like, hey, I real quick, like I only have a couple minutes. But then you won't have so much anxiety around, oh no, this is, if I don't do this one deal, like this is the only, like I've got better nail this. You have 1,000 leads to burn, right?
It's referred to as lead poverty consciousness.
Yep.
That's what it is. And when individuals get into that state, then they start building their business from a position of lack and instead of a position of abundance. And that's why having a massive list of leads is so helpful, because you're just dialing for dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, who cares whether they say yes, no, or they're indifferent?
Yeah.
You're gonna get through the no's. You're gonna find the yeses. Those are the people you're gonna spend your time with, and that's how you start making that conversion.
Yep.
100%.
Exactly. And that's just it. You have to create that mindset of abundance, right? That abundance mindset. Because if you don't, then you might be getting down to like, you got two leads that you're looking at, and I want to buy a deal, so I guess I'll pick one.
Right.
They're probably both crap.
Yeah, and that's
They're
when you
probably
start
both
making
awful.
those really bad decisions, because
Yeah.
you're like, I'm going to fit this square peg in the
Statistically.
round hole. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make this deal work, and that's when you get yourself into trouble.
Yep. Exactly.
And because of our 90-day first flip challenge, it has created a ton of urgency to get into a deal. But I will say that often what we're seeing is people are so excited to lose money. They're so excited to lose money. And obviously the number one rule in investing is don't lose money. Right? Like that is the number one rule. So it's like, don't be in such a hurry to lose money. Like that's not what it's about, right? It's to learn how to get into your first deal in 90 days. So don't be so hyper focused on getting into your first deal to somehow be like, look, I did it. Realistically, that I would much rather you not get into your first deal in 90 days if it's not a deal.
Yep.
So learn how to run your numbers, right? Which goes into the next part.
Spencer Clark did thank us for making fun of his brand new whiteboard that he's got.
Oh, you're welcome, Spencer.
And it's full stapler. I love it. What's up, Spencer? No, so that's, I mean, and having an abundance of leads, like, it can create a time problem if you're doing it wrong. We can, there's certain activities that if we do, like I opened with, if we're going backwards through this process, you just don't have enough time to have an abundance of leads. Right. So we have to be organized and we have to be strategic about how we're going about it. And so once we get to that list of yeses, we pass our, pan full of dirt and gold and other things through that first filter. Now it's time. Let's open up the real estate red flags class from Chris Albin. Let's learn how to analyze deals and start running the numbers. Chris does a fantastic job. I was here in the studio a few months ago when he was re-recording that class.
Yeah.
He does an incredible job with that class. That's one of the, in my opinion, that is one of the most valuable classes in the entire curriculum, because it teaches you not to identify deals emotionally, identify them logically using math. And there is, man, I've been around this industry now for over 12 years, and I've seen all sorts of calculators that people give away to get into their funnel. And, what's interesting is all the calculators, they work down to what you're going to make on the deal to tell you what your profit's going to be. What I love about the calculator that Chris includes in his class is that you tell it what your minimum desired profit is, and it will tell you what you need to offer on that deal.
Your maximum.
And I think that's important because especially, when we're looking at any type of investment, fix and flips, rentals, I always tell people when they ask me, they'll say, do I need to get an appraisal? Do I need to get an appraisal when I'm buying this fix and flip that I'm working on? You can, but I think it's a waste of money because it doesn't matter what the house is worth when you're buying it as an investment. What matters is the math. The math will tell you what you need to buy it for, and then it's up to you to negotiate, right? So now you're going to use that spreadsheet that Chris teaches you how to use in Real Estate Red Flags to get down to what your maximum investor offer is. Once we've done that second step, which I call quick analysis, we have our second filter. And the second filter is, well, what do they owe on their mortgage? Because sometimes, Chris's spreadsheet will tell us, hey, you can offer, $200,000 on this. And then you look up their information on Renatus iOS and they owe $250,000 on their mortgage.
Right.
Is that going to be a quick transaction? No, they can't. Even if they wanted to, which they obviously do, because we already asked them, even if they wanted to, they couldn't sell us their property, right? Because they'd be upside down. Right. Unless you want to go, of course, through the short sale. I mean, that's a whole other strategy and whatnot. That may be applicable.
Or something, yeah.
But just as a straightforward case, if they owe more than what your maximum investor offer is according to the red flag spreadsheet, throw it away.
Yep.
That's not a deal,
Next.
right? It only passes through the filter if your maximum offer price, your ceiling on what you can offer, is higher than what they owe on their mortgage. That creates what we call a negotiation window, and that takes us to step 3 on the Deal Spotter system, which is negotiations. And man, we got a really cool class in the education on
You know what? It's
negotiation.
not a bad class.
Yeah.
It's not a bad
We
class.
got to get that instructor back in the
You know?
studio to teach us some more stuff.
I'll tell you what.
He needs more classes in that thing.
I use all of my negotiation strategies constantly, all the time.
Yeah.
I don't care what I'm doing.
Right?
Whether I'm buying a house, I'm buying a car, I'm buying teeth for my sister. I mean, we just went through that. I saved $9,000.
Oh,
making
wow.
that
Yeah.
transaction happen. So
That's awesome.
yeah, so it's it's been a class that pays huge dividends.
It does. And you're right. It is applicable in all areas of life. We're the proud parents of 2 teenagers. So we use that negotiations class on a daily basis.
Now,
But,
unfortunately, our children are also, so that's, becomes a thing. But, you know.
They start watching the classes.
by
You're like, wait,
example.
no. You guys can't negotiate against us.
That's right.
Our,
Because we also teach. I mean, we not only teach the 30 different strategies in that class, but we also teach the counter to each of those strategies. So,
Right.
yeah. So it's one of those things where you watch it. Don't let your kids watch it.
yeah, don't let your kids watch that one.
Backfire. Yep.
Yeah. Both kids have made comments at different points, about wanting to be homeschooled, and they end up not doing it because they want the social interaction of high school, like every teenager does, right? But we both said to both of them, both times it's come up, we'll sign that paper if you watch your Renatus education.
Yeah.
They're like, really? Just stay at home and watch Renatus? Yeah, we'll sign it, right? So,
It would be cool.
yeah, they want that social interaction, but
No, for sure.
but once we so back to the training here. Once we have that negotiation window, now we can go have that conversation, and we can come in and say, hey, obviously, like you teach, we want to start our offer low, or even not be the first one to say a number, right? But if they come in and they're higher than what our max offer is, well, let's counter with something that we know is right above what they owe on their mortgage, right? And you do the back and forth, and you're going to land hopefully somewhere in that window. But if you don't land there, if the seller won't settle on something that's below your max offer, even if it's by $1, have an abundance mindset.
Yeah.
There are so many things that can go wrong in a real estate transaction. And when you build in your minimum desired profit, and I've had people come back to me like, well, my minimum desired profit's $10,000. It's like, you could have a $10,000 mistake.
Yeah, that's pretty
Oopsie.
You have a $20,000 mistake.
Yeah.
So why don't we make that minimum at least 30, if not 40,000 on a, on a fix and flip.
Minimum.
But you're, the higher you fudge those numbers, I think this is the perfect rule for this system. Don't fudge the numbers.
Yep.
If it comes back, $1 higher than where you need to be, just move on to the next one.
Yep.
Have an abundance mindset about it. So that's the filter. That's filter number 3. As we're negotiating, is the seller decides, are they going to accept an offer in your negotiation that's inside of that window? And if they do, great. It moves on to the next step. If they don't, then
Great.
move on.
Great. They've just filtered themselves
Next.
out.
Just-
Now,
thank you.
I do have to ask you a question about that too, because I've always operated a little bit differently in that respect. Because I have multiple strategies that I can utilize for a deal, right? So I mean, what you're speaking to is, hey, we want to get in there, we want to find the offers, we want to move now and get the deal closed. But do you keep a backlog of those individuals you stay in touch with? Because the closer they get to that auction date, the more motivated they become, and suddenly individuals who were like, no way. Because I know manna is going to come from heaven. It's going to save me in this deal. I am going to be just fine. The closer they get to that auction date, the fewer options they have, the more urgency they have. Do you stay in touch with those folks?
Fortunes in the follow-up. So absolutely.
You taught us that. Yes,
Fortunes in the
absolutely.
follow-up.
Because of that reason.
Yeah.
Right? Fortunes in the follow-up.
So in other words, you move on,
Yeah.
but you don't close the door.
No.
We don't close
never,
the door. Yeah,
ever.
we move on. And there's complexities that you can build into this system. Like, for example, when we're running this system, our primary investment strategy is buy and holds.
Yeah.
So we want to, and the primary way we do that is seller finance acquisitions and subject twos. And so that's kind of how we lead. But more people or I guess I should say fewer people are open to that than are a cash offer, even at a discount. So we'll lead with would you be open to, creative financing in some way? And there's a script behind that. Great class by Brian Sump, right?
Yep.
It's awesome.
Absolutely.
And then if they're like, nah, okay, well, I can get you a cash offer. It's gonna be a little less than what my seller finance offer would be, but let's chat. Are you open to that?
And then in my case, we say worst case scenario, I'll list it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm an agent, you know. And
Agents
so,
have a built-in like a second stop on the
Oh,
filter.
listen, that's the reason why my daughter became an agent. She wanted to double dip on all the deals they were doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Dip.
I call it triple dip.
Triple dip. It's a triple dip.
And if I find the deal,
Call it the George
then
Costanza.
I'm the agent on it.
Yes, you
right?
are. Yes, you
and
are.
then if I'm the investor on it, I obviously am making money on it. And then when I sell it, so
Oh, you got the triple dip.
the triple dip.
Triple dip. I like it.
Yeah,
It's like the
triple dip.
3-layer dip right there
Yes.
of real estate
So
investing.
good.
I like it.
Yeah.
So-
No. I was just gonna say it is hard for people to not hyper focus on that specific point or point like spot with the offer. So I would suggest if you're getting stuck with like, oh, I don't know what to send them, always have 3 offers available. And then that way, whatever you're really wanting them to choose, make that the sweeter one, right? Like whatever the one that you're like, oh, I want them to pick this specific one, right? Then it's like, okay, make that one look a little sweeter. And I personally don't necessarily have to submit repsies. I feel like for an offer, you could just do a letter of intent. I feel like that goes a long way. Then you're not writing 1,000 addendums and having to
Right.
So come to negotiations with just a letter of intent. I feel like that's very helpful.
Right on.
Yeah. And once they accept that offer, that's the third filter. Once they accept that offer, then we're in our due diligence period. And I always, I know there's a lot of opinions on this out there. And I know we have a great class on auctions that, you don't get a whole lot of due diligence in auctions.
Yeah.
You don't get a whole lot of due diligence buying a wholesale usually. But man, for me, due diligence is what makes the difference between investing and gambling. And so I like to go in and do, as much due diligence as I possibly can. Hire a really good home inspector and buy everything on their menu, get all the tests, right? Understand exactly what it is that I'm buying, and that I'm committing myself and my partners to, because knowledge mitigates risk.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, I think, one of the cornerstones that Renatus is founded on is knowledge mitigates risk. The more you know about this, the safer you're going to be doing it.
Yep.
And so that's part of that fourth step, which we call long analysis now, which includes due diligence and putting your funding together. During that due diligence period, you should be putting 2-3 weeks if you can, right? Because you got to get your funds together. You got to go through the inspection. You got to get your contractor in there if it's a flip, get your bids back, or get your property manager in there if it's a rental. Make sure that they understand what they're getting into. So there's a lot to do in that fourth step. But the fourth filter after that step, once you've collected all that information, and I usually do when I'm doing my quick analysis, which is the numbers.
Yeah.
And Chris Albin spreadsheet, I usually do a save as for every property.
Mm-hmm.
I just save property address on my hard drive so that if I get to step 4 and I'm doing my due diligence, I can go call that back up and be like, well, this is what I guesstimated my repair costs were. But now that I have a bid from my contractor, like I'm going to go put in down to the decimal point what it is, right? So we want to kind of be double checking our numbers and verifying that those numbers still work. Sometimes you got to go back and renegotiate with the seller. And, when we do that, we want to make sure also that we're getting paid for the extra stuff that we're going to have to do. It's going to cost you an extra $20,000. Don't just negotiate it down $20,000. You got to get paid for that extra headache. Negotiate it down 25 or 30,000, right? And then sometimes it doesn't work, and we got to cancel the contract and move on, and move to the next lead on the list.
But I love how you guys keep pointing out that it's not about how attached you are to the deal. Instead, it's about the math.
Yep.
And if the math doesn't make sense, if it just doesn't pencil, then you move on.
Yeah.
And you got to have that perspective of, hey, this is a deal that I am willing to let go to protect my family, to make sure that my future is more secure.
Yeah.
So I love that. I know that that's something where a lot of people also get stuck when they're brand new, where they just get so emotionally attached. They're like, well, okay, we're this far in the game. I've already put in this much skin. It's going to I'm just going to whittle things a little here and a little there. And all of a sudden they find themselves upside down again in a deal.
Yeah. And there's nothing more discouraging or damaging than finding yourself in a bad deal.
Yeah.
Like you want
Because if you start wrong, it's challenging to ever finish right.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly.
So words to live by right there.
That's really good advice.
Yeah. So I mean, all of this is designed to bring what we learn in the Renatus, the system that we work weekly is
Daily.
designed, daily, is designed to bring everything we've learned in the Renatus education together into an assembly line, a Henry Ford style. Like, let's just pump these things through this system, and that way we get to go to step 5, which is close on it,
Right.
on only the good ones,
Yeah.
only the home runs, and even then, I still had some stinkers in my career,
Oh, yeah.
But by having that abundance, by pushing leads through that system constantly, it creates this this abundance to where we just get to pick the best ones,
Perfect.
So
And I will say too, like, so often, really this education needs to teach you how to find know the numbers, because unfortunately wholesalers, right, they're known to prey on the uneducated, right, not smart investors.
Right.
And that can it gets nasty, right? And so many of our people that join like our challenge, for instance, they're like, oh, cool, I'll just go buy one from a wholesaler. No, you already lost all your margin. You already lost all of the money that you were supposed to be making on this deal. Obviously, it doesn't work. So I do hope that you're listening. Make sure that you're not the person that is buying the wholesale deal, because you're not going to get due diligence, would be my guess. It's very rare to see that happen. And that's just by itself going to cause issues. And then now you also just got rid of all of your margin to make all the monies, right? I hate that. We have one of our Mary and Seta, they're going to make $250,000 on a flip. Yeah. It's actually on Tuesday,
awesome.
so you guys should come see it.
Right
Yeah.
on,
My
man.
record.
That's
That's
fantastic.
awesome.
I know. I'm
Well-
like, you guys are awesome.
And you know what? And because you brought up the wholesaling thing too, listen, everybody teaches and preaches the fact that, wholesaling is the fastest way from start to money in real estate. But when I first got in the game, I mean, wholesalers, they pretty much made, $2,500, maybe $5,000 on a flip, on a wholesale transaction.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of the parameters of the margin, I've seen a lot of greedy wholesalers these days, and they really are taking advantage of folks because they're pulling all the profit out of the deal. They're saying, the after repair value on this thing is going to be X, but I'll sell it to you at X.
Yeah, just
and then
lying.
you're like, oh, I'm so excited to get this because there's all this margin in here. I'm going to go ahead and buy that, because they don't do the due diligence. And then what happens? They find out that the X they quoted was really Y.
Yeah. And that's so important. Even if you are going to, let's say you're just syndicating, right? Maybe you're just throwing money at the deal because you don't want to do the work, right? Totally. We love that. We love all of our syndicators, right? That's fantastic. But you still need to know how to run your numbers.
Oh yeah.
You can't just take somebody's word for it. That's a terrible idea.
Right.
Like,
Right.
let's not do that. Yeah. I will say too that is how we've divided our business up, is kind of inside that the deal acquisition strategy. There is, I'm the front end and then Mitch is the back end. So it's kind of cool because we'll do, somebody will ask us a question and I'll be like, oh, that's a really great question. That's a Mitch question.
Yep.
If it's about raising capital or anything to do around, what that looks like, I'm like, I have no idea. Go talk to Mitch, right? And then if it's, asking about trying to figure out negotiating on a property or how to make
Where
an
to
offer
pull these leads
or
or-
where to
yeah.
find leads, it's like, go talk to Maeli.
Yeah, that's a Maeli question.
That's a Maeli
Call
question.
Maeli.
Yeah. But that's helped create a nice divide for our business, because I do feel like so often people come to us and go, how do you guys possibly work together? Like, I would kill my husband, or I would
true.
kill my
I
wife.
was actually going to ask you guys
Yeah.
that question because I'm really interested. So you're obviously doing really well together. You're obviously you found a good system where you guys are you have a rhythm together.
Mm-hmm.
How do you keep that separate, and how do you work efficiently and effectively together? And I guess on top of that, what do you do when there's a hitch in the giddy up?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I mean, and that's it. It's just this idea of, having clear boundaries, because unfortunately it's so easy to, if you cross those boundaries, that's when people get offended, right? It's when your eyes like, oh, that hurts my feelings because you took that from me, or you didn't trust that I would actually finish what I said I was going to start, right? That's usually when why you can't work together. But if you can create a clear boundary of, oh, this is my lane and I know you have it. I don't have to worry. I don't have to think twice that that Mitch, I never have to worry that Mitch will raise the capital ever. Like I've never been like, babe, like, are you going to figure this out? Like, I have like these deals. Like, are you going to? He's like, nope. And it is, we do have a competition, which is kind of fun. Cause like, I'll get all these leads and then like, oh crap, now I got to get all this money. And then it's like, I was like, he's like, I got all this money, go grab me. I'm like, okay. So it has been a fun journey for that reason, just because I think we push each other to be more, and I love that. So very grateful for that scenario. And I also we saw a podcast, or was listening to a podcast a couple years ago, and they gave really good advice. I can't remember. Do you remember what the podcast was? Yeah, but it was something about somebody had asked a similar question to another couple that ran a business, and they said, we created this scenario where some things I'm number one on, and some things you're going to be number 2 on. And at any moment during the day, and this is true now, it's so great. We've definitely adopted this into our life, and be like, hey, I have this activity, I'm creating this event, or I'm doing whatever, and I'm number 1 on this, but I need you to be my number 2 on this. Like, I need you to like help me. And then vice versa. At any moment, Mitch can be like, okay, I'm number 1 on this project, but I need you, right? You need to be my number 2 right now. It's like, I'm here, I'm ready to go. But that just gives permission, I think, for the other person to realize that they need help.
Yeah.
Because that's the other problem, is you get stuck and you're like, well, this is my lane, I can't ask for help then. Like, no, if I need help inside the other side of this lane, ask, right?
Yeah.
I will say it does require that both sides give 100%.
Yeah.
Right. And life's life. It's chaotic, and sometimes you're given 90%, or sometimes you're given 80%. Right.
What's that? You guys have teenagers?
But, yeah. But it does require that both, give 100%. And, Bob, one thing I learned from you right from the beginning is how important self-development is.
Yeah.
Right. Because that keeps both of us, like, we're both really into it. I never was into it till I met you. But that keeps both of us sharp, keeps us on top of our game. It keeps the mindset right.
I'll tell you what, man. I mean, real estate and wealth creation is a mindset. It's totally a mindset, right? And the most valuable real estate you're ever going to invest in is the 6 inches between your ears. There's a lot of folks that were sitting on the sidelines, during this last year. Did you know in the last quarter of 2024 that 1 out of every 6 homes that was purchased in the United States was bought by an investor?
Oh,
I believe it.
Yeah.
I totally believe it.
Yeah, for
That's
lower
crazy.
income properties, it was 1 in 4. It was absolutely incredible. I mean, the market is booming. And a lot of people are saying, oh, yeah, that's all those institutional investors. No, it's not. Absolutely not. I mean, if you take a look at all of the institutional investors all together with their total single-family holdings, it's about 1% of the total single-family housing inventory in the United States. So there's a lot of, folks are saying, oh, well, look at how they're pushing things. Well, if they are pushing things, then you know what's going to happen? Why don't we invest in the markets they invest in? Because you know what they're doing. I mean, they're buying a home at $300,000 so that then next week they can buy another home at $350,000. So the next week they can buy one at $400,000. So the next week they can buy one at $450,000. And they're pushing the market up because now the 3 homes that were trailing behind are now all worth $450,000.
I love being our own comps. It's like one of my favorite things. You try to buy houses like all in the same street. So it's like, oh, I have a proof. I have a comp. There's literally just 2 doors down.
There's a lot of stuff going on. So why not, just play the game beside them and enjoy all the benefits? Because even when it comes to renting them out, they're not efficient. They're not effective. And, we've got a lot of great selling advantages, a lot of unique advantages that the institutional buyers don't have. But people shouldn't fear them. They ought to actually study their model and figure out how to invest aside them.
Yeah.
So can we do this real quick before we move on to the questions that are here on the call?
Yeah.
Can we pull up that slide one more time and just give everybody who's watching an opportunity to review it, and then maybe have you guys just walk through it just real quickly, just kind of go through all 5 steps.
You want me to do it? Or do you want to do it?
Yeah, I can. Absolutely. So this is actually what I do every day. So Mitch and I, we created this system so that my front end could be easier for me. Because unfortunately, when I first got started, I also got kind of that analysis paralysis.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, there's too many leads and I don't know how to and then I was trying to run all the comps, right? And I know all your agents out there, you're thinking this. Wait, I need to run comps on every single property. I know every time that you come into my office, they're like, I want to be an investor. And then you go, I don't want to be an investor anymore. Because that would be a lot of ARVs that you should be running. Of great news, you're not. You're not running ARVs until you actually are ready to make the offer. Like, you're just not. And so lead generation, my suggestion is Mondays you're doing lead gen, Tuesdays you're doing lead gen. So you're finding all of your leads, going down the courthouse, or you're grabbing them from Renatus iOS. And then by Wednesday, we're skip tracing. So you could use something like Smile and Dial, a Smile and Dialer, I should say. There's quite a few different ones, but some of them allow you to call over 300 people per hour, which is great. And then it picks up and drops off and then does drop off calls, which is super helpful. And so that's massive action. All of it works. Nothing doesn't. Right, all of it works. And then if you're doing mail, then by Wednesday, right? So you're creating your mail, you're making your Post-its or whatever. Everything is done by Wednesday, so that Thursday you're actually just smiling and dialing, right? So skip trace on Wednesdays, get everything ready to go, and then by Thursday you should be calling. And you can take, right? You should be able to call a lot of people by Thursday. And then once that happens and you hit the filter, are they even willing to sell? Right? If they are willing to sell, then, right, you go to the next step. It's past that filter. And so Fridays and Saturdays, you should be booking appointments to go see a homeowner, right? Because until you've actually had a physical conversation with that person, whether it's on the phone or, right, belly to belly, I'm sorry, why are you writing an offer? Right? Why are you writing an ARV even, right? Why are you spending so much time trying to figure out what this property could be? Let's find out what the homeowner actually, how to solve their problem. We don't even know what they're up against right now. They might be able to sell our house for just $10,000, $1, right? We have no idea at the end of the day what they actually need. So we just need to be problem solvers. And then if we can come with that mindset when we're looking at deals, I think that's super helpful. And then do not be afraid to obviously reach out and start asking for money now. So pretend like you have a deal, right? The second, it could be my deal. Come borrow any one of mine, right? Literally, like, you have a deal and then you're raising capital from that specific deal. I think so often people wait till they're in due diligence and they're like, oh, okay, now I need to raise capital. That's probably not when you should be doing it, right? Like, already have the funds. And then if you do back out during due diligence and be like, oh, well, you good to stick around for the next one? If, I'll find the next one.
Right.
Yes. Right. Great. If I can find a deal that's similar numbers, would you be still open? Yes. Right. I mean, that's your job, but right.
So that was kind of steps 1 and 2, right?
Yep.
And you've got that systematized to even days of the week.
Yes.
Is 3 kind of where you pick up then with the negotiation part?
Yep.
So then do you have the same kind of system where you're like, okay, on Monday, these are the calls that I make. On Tuesday, here's what
Once you get to kind of that point in the system, because you can very, very easily structure that first part, right? But once you get to the back end of it, I find that it's just, it's that process of focus on the lowest hanging fruit, right? The ones that I'm in due diligence on and that I have, then you got kind of appointments all over the week of sending out your inspectors and your contractors and all that stuff. So it's a little more chaotic as you get towards the end of that system. But we follow the system kind of religiously. It's just harder to structure.
A little more art than science.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep.
So
but I think what you were asking for before, I got an easy way. 5 fingers, right? Find, analyze, negotiate, fund, close. That's it. That's the system.
5-finger punch right there.
Yep, 5-finger punch.
So how many leads would you recommend somebody who's brand new getting into real estate investing? How many leads would you recommend that they start with before they start putting them through the system?
Ooh, I mean, personally, I want you to create 1,000 leads. Like, create 1,000 leads.
That's a lot of leads.
And until you've called 100 people, still don't even know what you're doing. You have no idea what to even say to people. So this last week, we actually, like I said, we do a Smile and Dial training, and it's actually not a lot of leads. We have so many leads right now. Like, it's wild, right? There's so many leads, and we need more of you to know how to solve these people's problems. I mean, it's wild how many people are going into foreclosure that we didn't even get to talk to because there's not enough of us that could actually reach out to them, right, and solve their problem. Or divorce situation, or meth, mold, radon, right? There's so many scenarios that people don't know how to solve That's all we are, right? We're just master problem solvers. But I do think that once you've generated all those leads, unfortunately, right? Like it's finding the leads that gets hard. It's finding their numbers. So skip tracing actually is really frustrating. It is. There's just nothing, and all the services, I don't care what they are, they all just can't 100% get it, right? So sometimes you're calling an aunt or an uncle or a grandma or a cousin, right? And so you have to get really good at figuring out how to I call myself a detective, right? It's like, okay, I'm a detective and I have to figure out who owns this house. Like, how do I find this person?
Right.
In the First Flip Challenge, we have KPIs for everybody going through the First Flip Challenge.
Hang on. What does KPI stand for?
Key Performance Indicators.
There you go.
Yeah. One of those KPIs is 25 new leads a week.
All right.
Excellent.
And I think that's a great starting place.
Yeah.
Now it's 13 weeks, and that's how we get to 1,000, right? But it's just by one step at a time, one bite at a time. But yeah, I think 25 a week, and just start there.
So okay, I've got two more questions that I'm going to couple together here, and I've got a few more that we need to get to. But if you had a happy day path for a lead, right? Let's say you find the lead on Monday. How quickly could you move that lead through this system to get them to the closing table where you want to be investing your time? And then the follow-up question is, once I get a lead who is progressing, I stop finding other leads, correct?
No, Jay, that would be a terrible decision. Let's stop the pipeline. Yeah. But that is actually normal, right? Like that is something that people do. And I love when people can really create a system around that where it's like, no, but that's why you have a system, right? Because then all your focus isn't just on one property. Yeah. If you do that, you literally just picked up another job, right? So that doesn't work. Lean on your systems, rely on them, because what I do Mondays doesn't change.
Right.
What I do on Tuesdays doesn't change. What I do on Wednesdays, right? The system can't be broken, or our pipeline would be zero, right?
Could you imagine if Apple was like, hey, we got the parts for one phone. Stop production, everybody. We're going to put this phone together.
We're going to put it all together, and then we'll worry about the next phone.
And then we'll turn it all back on, right?
That's a great visual, man. That really is. That's a great visual.
Yeah, no, keep it going. Keep it going. You got to keep the factory running.
Right on. So what is that happy day path as far as like a timeline? How quickly do you think you could get somebody from being a brand new lead to all the way to the closing table?
I mean, it depends on our due diligence timeline, because
that's a very subjective, very subjective thing. I mean, you can knock them out and I've seen you crush them in 48 hours, right? Where you got to stop the auction and get them to the closing table, and but I think standard. What would you say?
I'd say 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
I like to make them longer, to be honest. I'm a little bit.
We like our due diligence.
I like a longer due diligence.
Gives you a little bit more breathing room.
Yeah.
I get you.
I think that's it, and it just makes everyone feel a little bit. But no, and I feel like that this is common too, that people don't understand this. You can always ask for longer due diligence.
Yeah.
Right. So people always get that kind of confused too, where like maybe you only asked for 2, but you still want more. Like, hey, I didn't know I was going to need an entire roof, shingle and tear off and everything. So you're going to need to give me a little bit longer time here, right? Like it's okay to ask and continue to keep asking.
Yeah.
And I will say that people do this wrong too, which is if they think the offer is something specific and the deal calculator, right, it tells them, okay, this is your maximum offer. They won't offer above that. But I actually think that that's not necessarily like exactly what you should be doing. And the reason is because when I show up to a house and I tell agents, I tell everyone, I'm like, I will make you an offer based on what I can see. I'm not an inspector and I don't know how to fix anything, right? I don't. And so because that's the case, I purposely try to not know how to do things, right? In this case, because this is how my offer is based. And then great news, if nothing comes back where, or there's meth or there's mold or radon problems or whatever, then this will be exactly the offer and this will be great. Obviously, that's never the case, right? There's plenty of negotiating, power that happens once you've done the inspection. And then it's like, oh, well, unfortunately, I didn't know it needed a roof. I didn't know that you need all new plumbing and you had knob and tube, electrical. Like, right? Like, I didn't know that all these things needed to happen. And so it does give us a ton of negotiating power when you do structure like
Well,
that.
and it's a great
so
way
put it
to
under put it under contract, because you can't negotiate anything that's
Right.
not under contract.
Right.
It's just a great way to pre-frame the conversation and to develop the proper expectations
Yes.
so that they know that, hey, listen, if everything's great, then this is the number.
Yeah.
And if everything isn't, then we've got to talk about it so that they're conditioned to that right out of the gate. I love that.
I just barely realized what time it was. I'm having such a good time with this conversation.
Time here.
Let me just ask you guys just one final question real quick, then we'll turn back over to Bob. Have you found that today's landscape, in today's market, you can actually buy real estate and invest in it successfully?
Absolutely. You can, with the breadth of knowledge that we get out of the Renatus library, there's a strategy for any market. And my favorite part about real estate is it's a non-compressible market. Like the stock market, you taught me this. The stock market, business is going to be worth zero. How's Blockbuster doing?
Yeah.
How's Kodak doing right now? Right?
Yep. Investors are
Huge in the
still licking
heyday.
their wounds over those deals.
Yeah, but we're in an investment category that is part of our hierarchy of needs. We all need food, water, and shelter. And so when markets change, how people interact with their real estate changes, but it doesn't change the fact that they have to live somewhere. So just change your strategy.
That's awesome. All right, we're out of time with you guys. I would really love if over the course of the next week, if you guys could maybe make a few minutes here or there to just go back and answer any other questions that people may be asking in any of the comments on the video. Would that be all right with you?
Absolutely. We'd love to.
Awesome. You guys have done phenomenal. Bob, let's turn it back to you.
Well, I got to say, man, thank you. Thank you so much. They're absolute rock stars. We're thrilled to be able to have them in the studio with us here. It makes for a much more dynamic conversation. And there's a few things that I want to mention. This really is to speak to those folks that, are going, man, I really would like to know more about what in the heck you guys do. Well, on the screen right now, we've got a link, we've got a QR code. If you would like to have a 15-minute conversation with one of our investing consultants, we'd be more than happy to just give you a free 15-minute session, talk about where you're at, talk about what's going on, talk about, if there's a way that maybe we can work together going forward and see if you're a good fit for our program, then please, man, take advantage of the links and the QR code that's on your screen right there. Here's another thing, too. We would invite you to be with us every single week, so subscribe. Hit the bell, hit the like. Save it, subscribe it, and join us every single week as we impart more and more wisdom from the inside of the Renatus community to help you in your own investing career. That's a big part of what we do. And then for the community as a whole, as well as those of you that have tuned in, you've got to keep in mind we've got some important things that are coming up. So we're going to take a little bit of a break on March 17th and March 24th, but we'll be back on March 31st. And we'll be in full swing with Renatus InvestEdge. So, you might miss us for a couple of weeks, but we'll be back. And why are you going to miss us? Because we got a national conference coming up, and we got a lot of things to get ready for. I do want to make some announcements to our community out there so that you guys are up to speed on what's going on, and that is that we just have a brand new course in the back office. Our Real Estate Red Flags course has been completely updated and renewed so that you have all of that access to information back there. I know our host, or I should say our guest today, referenced Chris Albin's class a number of different times. And then the other thing is March 20th through the 22nd, we have our national conference coming up. Now, our ICMs, those that are a part of our community who actually help us to get the word out and market our education, your ticket price for the national conference, including the banquet, is $447. Those of you who are just checking us out for the first time, you're like, hey, man, I'd like to have 3 days of powerful information. We're really going to equip, educate, and engage. If you would like to join us as a guest, you can do so with an all-access pass for $95. But here's the thing. Today is the deadline for the banquet. So if you don't get it in today, you can still come. You can get a basic guest ticket for $30, but you can't come to the banquet. And the banquet's such an important part of our business because that's where we recognize all of the folks that are out there moving and shaking and making things happen. Again, it's March 20th through the 22nd. We've got 23 powerful, incredible educators, folks that are practitioners in what they do. That means they make their full-time living doing what they're going to teach our students how to do. It's going to be a powerful event, to say the least. I could go through and talk about every single one of them. You want to learn how to save money on your taxes? Patrick Munson's going to be there. You want to learn how to make money with the Renatus opportunity and really understand what three-dimensional real estate is all about? Scott Rowe's going to teach you. You want to know about short sales, or it's not short sales, but short-term rentals, or or the velocity banking strategy. I mean, Mr. Randall Cloud, Michael Huggins is going to be there for, an opportunity to share with you some of the great things that he's done over the years with regards to our opportunity. Mr. Richard Stock, oh my goodness, Mr. Woody Woodward, what an incredible system he's developed with the Drive system. The list goes on and on and on, but the national conference is a must attend for anybody inside of the Renatus community. And if you really want to understand how to take your business and real estate to the next game and get equipped, you got to come join us. Come join us. There's a fantastic event. It's an all-star cast, practitioner instructors, individuals who don't teach you fluff. They get right to the stuff. And that's also that you can get engaged and take action in the business. Now, there's a lot of great things that we're doing as well for the folks inside of our community. And that is our ICMs who invite guests, and those guests attend. Well, they're going to get introduced into a special sales contest so that they can come to my house after the national conference is over. That's Saturday night. They're going to be hanging out with myself and my lovely wife and enjoying some great opportunity to work with some of the speakers that are at the national conference, to do some great Q&A, to do some fantastic networking opportunities. All of that is available, and all you got to do is, well, get yourself registered and then start plugging guests in. Here's another thing that we've done. This was really at the insistence of our leadership. They said, Bob, there's so many folks around the country that for one reason or another, they're just not able to attend. As a matter of fact, I spoke to one of them today. She said, I am the full-time caregiver for my aging mother, and without me here, she can't exist. I mean, is there any way that we can view the national conference online? I said, absolutely. So we put that together where we're going to be Zooming it in. And again, you get the opportunity to do that. Now, if an individual is inside of the boundaries of the Wasatch Front in Utah, we're pretty much blacking that out. Why? Because you should be in the event live. But if you live in Chicago, or you live in Atlanta, or if you live in Florida, or you live in New York, wherever you might be, and you're not able to make it to the conference, there is now a way for you to do that. How do you get registered? Well, you get a QR code right there on your screen. It's pretty simple. Get yourself registered so that you can get educated, equipped, and then engage in this process so you can take action and go out there and just absolutely crank it up. Again, our business is all about you having the flexibility of time and the opportunity to build a business from home. They say that if home is where the heart is, shouldn't your business be there too? Well, I'm a big believer in that. So come join us at the national conference. And again, Renatus InvestEdge will be back with you on March 31st. March 31st. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you soon. Good day and God bless.
No one, a countdown is in play. Disarm all excuses, building empires every day.